Good to see all of you and glad to have you with us for our fourth week of Fall into Fat Burning. Nice to see you guys. It's just always good to see familiar faces as we go week to week here. I'm Dr. Geraldine Brossfield, and this is week 4 of Fall into Fat Burning. And the topic tonight is going to be somewhat centered on eating on the go, or how we take some of these principles out of our house into the surrounding world and the places that we often are thriving, surviving, or barely aliving, I guess we could say, any of those types of things. But I want to talk a little bit about how everybody's doing. I'm curious and interested if any of you want to either type something in the chat box or let me know how things are going. I'm really curious how things are going now that we're 3 weeks into some practical ideas that you can place into your own either shopping or kitchen prep or that kind of thing. Has anybody been trying to aim towards their 15-gram total per meal and noticing anything about that that's interesting to them? Are you feeling like you're getting enough food when you do that? I'm curious if anybody's feeling like they're still hungry when they do that. Has anyone had that experience? Not sure. I think one of the things that sometimes happens is that we tend in this country to have a mindset that deprivation is the way to go. And deprivation is absolutely not necessarily a healthy way to go. And so I often say to people, what we're really all about is nourishment. And so, let's make sure that we're nourishing each other and nourishing ourselves. And that would mean that we would be, getting not only 15 grams of carbohydrate or up to that amount, but really the other foods that we would have in the mix with us for those little fuelings would mean that we would have some healthy fat and some healthy protein each time we eat. Thank you, Janet, for that feedback. People are giving me a little bit of feedback in the chat box. So far it sounds like people are not feeling hungry and not noticing that that's an issue when they aim at their 15-gram targets for their small fuelings. And I think the other thing about it is that when we keep our 15-gram quota, so to speak, the other things I would expect us to start noticing with time are going to be around lowering of inflammation. So when we think about lowering inflammation, some of the symptoms that will tell you if that's happening are going to be less joint pain, a little bit less puffiness or bloating usually goes along with less inflammation, and sometimes better digestion as well will come along with that. And so those are other good things to start watching for. Those of you that are in fat burning, there's some even additional things to watch for. Fat burning is pretty awesome because it generally comes with extra energy and better sleep. And those are two things that, let me tell you, day in and day out, all of us are struggling with. So better energy and better sleep are good side effects of being in fat burning. And being in fat burning is what you can sustain. Those of you on the Optavia program doing your 5-in-1, the goal of that is to stay in fat burning all the time. When you're doing the 15-gram secret, it is not necessarily always going to be a fat burning scenario, depending on how you're constructing those meals, but it will let your body not store excess as either carbohydrate or extra fat in your body. You'll just be using up what you eat in that setting. I have somebody else mentioning to me that said, sometimes I feel like I didn't get enough to eat when they're doing the 15-gram secret. Okay, good notice. And one of the things about that I guess I would say is make sure that when you're getting your max, keeping your 15 grams of carbohydrate as your max, it sometimes is a trick to shift into kind of thinking, what else is in this meal? Because we're so used to having carbohydrates or starches as a primary part of our meal. So for instance, if my meal was going to be I'm going to make this up, but 3 chicken fingers and a big baked potato, and I kept the amount of potato down to 15 grams, I would be underfeeding myself at that meal if I just had, a third of a potato that equaled 15 grams, but I had 3 chicken fingers. So what you'd have to do to fill up in some of these meals where we've been used to a bigger carb portion would be you'd probably end up having to put a bunch more vegetables into that meal to still keep it under the 15-gram target, but help you fill up. So one of the tricks, and this is true even when tonight we talk about eating on the go, is to look for foods that are what we call nutrient dense. So foods that give us a lot of bang for our buck in the nutrition we get, and then also foods that are fiber dense. So things like broccoli, green beans, fresh carrot sticks, celery certainly, but all of those foods have a lot of fiber. And so from a filling power standpoint, they're going to have a little more filling power to them. And then adding a little fat into that meal will help you if you're having a hard time feeling full. That may be one other thing that you want to do, is add some olives or some avocado or a little bit of olive oil to that meal, just so you get a healthy dose of fat. Okay, well, any other thoughts that anyone wants to type in? I know certainly you all have been having your own experiences this week with shopping and cooking and eating, and I wish I could know each one of your experiences. All of us have some wins and some not wins, I suspect. And the good news is that when we're all together working on this, just know that if you're still here, you're still in the game. So that's the good news. Okay, I'm going to actually go from just our discussion in this format to just do a quick review of about 5 slides before I set us up for how we're going to talk about eating on the go. And Robert just posted that he's lost 9.5 pounds this month so far, not even always being in fat burning. So good way to go, Robert. You're getting a bunch of thumbs up. That's awesome. Yeah, really, really good. And that's even with having a couple weekends where we made some meals that didn't completely stay on track. So pretty darn good. Okay, just to review, I want to share my screen just to go over the 15-gram formula one more time. And maybe this is ad nauseum, but I'll tell you, I do it daily in my office and feel like it may take repetition before we all sort of get it ingrained in our minds. So let me just share a couple slides on that as a review. Okay. So if this is now week 4, we've been at this a little bit, and I just want to show you these couple slides that are kind of really specific targets that sort of also give us an idea of what why we're doing what we're doing. So this is a scenario where a person is absolutely not keeping their carbohydrate and sugar content to a low roar, definitely above the 15-gram kind of secret. Just to give you a framework, juices, for instance, generally have 26 grams of sugar in them and even more carbohydrates because they do have a little bit of fiber. So when you have a glass of orange juice, you're looking at getting in about 30 grams of carbohydrates. Same with apple juice. And even our vegetable juices, even celery juice and kale juice, for instance, still have enough carbohydrate in them that you've got to take the portion really low on your vegetable juices. So if you're having a vegetable juice, it needs to be sub 8 ounces in order to even stay within that 15-gram carbohydrate zone, with no other carbohydrates at that same sitting and some protein to balance it out. So if this is a scenario where a person was eating foods that were well above 15 grams of carbohydrate, you can see that each of these foods is going to spike the blood sugar in blue really high. Your body responds with insulin. And insulin is a protective mechanism. It's how your body is metabolizing that sugar. But when insulin is high, it causes inflammation, and it's the magic switch. So when insulin stays low and steady, we burn fat. If insulin is staying high, we're going to be burning carbohydrates, and we store fat. The problem with burning carbohydrates is not that there's something bad about burning carbohydrates. It's that we can't burn them up enough, and so there's always some to be stored if they're over 15 grams. So it's not that there's a problem. If you were eating 15 grams of carbohydrates every 3 hours, you're going to burn up those carbohydrates and use them, and there's not going to be any excess to be stored as fat, and it will keep the insulin levels low, which then allows you to burn fat. So kind of the trick behind this mechanism. So this is what we're aiming for. We're aiming for a really steady blood sugar where you get a little rise in your blood sugar when you eat, but barely a blip of insulin each time to utilize that blood sugar and put it away, because that meal is so low overall in excess carbohydrates or excess sugar. And then these low GI stands for low glycemic index meals. So the whole discussion that we've had for these 4 weeks is about low glycemic eating. And if you're looking for more info online and you're trying to dig into this, looking up low glycemic eating or glycemic index will help you find foods, and you can help yourself by picking foods that are under the 50 mark on a glycemic index. So foods that are, lower on the glycemic index will allow you to stabilize your blood sugar even more just with that food by itself, not even depending on combinations of your foods. So this is the 15-gram secret that we've been talking about, that net carbohydrates less than 15 grams per meal, and the protein being either higher than that amount of carbohydrates or within 5 grams of the carbohydrate count, will keep your blood sugar stable, keep your insulin response really minimal, and prevent storage as fat or cholesterol. So for one last time through the formula, and then we're going to do this on some on-the-go foods and ideas on how we can eat when we're in a hurry and not necessarily in the most optimal time or place to prepare our food. So this is the formula. Total carbohydrates in grams minus the fiber in grams equals net carbohydrates. So many people have heard of that before, but that's the number we want to keep at 15 or less. And then we're going to compare it to our protein. And the protein should either be higher than the net carbohydrates, or it ought to be within 5 grams of the net carbohydrate calculation. Okay, so I'm going to take that screen off and actually come back to visibility here. Just stop that. There we go. All right. So when we're looking at how we do that on the go, I'm going to talk first of all about some menus that are kind of common menus that all of us have seen. And Starbucks might be the most common place that a lot of us stop. There are so many Starbucks that obviously it seems like if you're on the run or you're in an airport, there's going to be a Starbucks nearby. So a couple different options. That 15-gram secret, if you keep that in mind, no matter where you're at, whether you're looking at a menu or a label or prepping ahead for yourself, that 15-gram secret is sort of your key. So if you were to walk into Starbucks and you were going to look at your options there, one of the things to notice is that on the board with the coffees and teas, all of the fancy drinks, so to speak, if they're sugar added, if they're sweet, they're going to be over the 15 grams. That's an easy rule of thumb to say. But there's some interesting ways you can kind of work with that. If you order a flat white, it's going to be a coffee that has a milk in it. And I think it's steamed milk, but basically the flat white ends up not having any added sugar except for the little bit of milk in it. So that's going to stay within your 15 gram. You're not going to go over on your carbohydrate count from a flat white. The same thing would be true with black coffee and adding a little bit of cream, or you can actually ask for butter at Starbucks. They'll do butter coffee and give you a pat of butter if you're into trying to do what we think of as bulletproof coffee or fat coffee. So if you're adding a bit of cream, the half and half or cream is going to have less sugar in it than would straight milk. So you're actually better off going with a little higher fat content if you're putting your cream in your coffee than you would be on the skim options. So certainly it's totally fine to have coffee or tea. You can tell them how many pumps of sweetener you want to have put in your coffee. So my kids have gotten used to ordering like the lemonades or the teas half sweet so that they don't have as much sugar in them. And then you can certainly also look at some of the drinks that are in the cold case that are pre-prepped. Most of the drinks in the cold case, I would say caution around, mainly because even if it's a naked juice, protein naked juice, when you look at the carb content and the protein content, it's not going to meet your 15-gram secret. It's way too high on the sugar. In the cold case of Starbucks, there's a couple things that'll typically be there. Usually they will have string cheese. Often they'll have just a little cup of blueberries, and sometimes they will have Greek yogurt. If you're doing a Greek yogurt, Siggy's is one that meets the 15-gram secret really easily. It's not too high in sugar. And some of the yogurt parfaits, the main thing is that the extra granola and fruit in the yogurt parfait will put you over. But if you're in dire straits, buy the yogurt parfait if you want and don't eat the yogurt and the granola and the strawberries, for instance, kind of pick around them and just have a few of those, and that'll keep your carb counts lower. The main thing in the hot case that fits the 15-gram secret are the egg white bites. So the little egg bites are great. Those are always a good go. And the wraps are actually fairly decent as well. So the other thing to know about Starbucks, there's all kinds of things like this at Starbucks. So there's things like kale chips, there are cheese bites, although the brand I've seen the most common at Starbucks is not this cheese bite brand, it's one called Moon Cheese. And so those items, the kale chips, the moon cheese, the jerky, and if they have, I haven't seen this always at Starbucks, but this is another option, super seeds that are pumpkin seeds that are flavored with all kinds of different flavors. Even the maple pumpkin seeds, these are called super seeds. Even the maple flavored of these super seeds are within the 15-gram secret when you look at the carb count on them. They're fine. So things like cheeses, pumpkin seeds, nuts, the jerkies, and the kale chips, all of those are going to be good to go on the rounder inside of Starbucks as far as good things on the go. The ones I just showed you are things that are not from Starbucks, but that are things that we've bought ourselves, either from, honestly, actually either from Costco or Trader Joe's, most of it. And so if you're planning ahead for your trip and you're not, or you're, planning ahead for your day, and your purse really is almost what I say is load your purse with 2 to 3 snacks. You can do things like the little olive packs from Trader Joe's. Those are great if you like olives. The little cheese, Parmesan cheese crisps, and the pumpkin seeds are all things that I very commonly have in my purse with me, so that I have 2 to 3 snacks with me at all times. One of the things about Optavia that has been a great methodology, people say, well, are you still on program? You're eating Optavia food. And I say, Optavia is my default. So what I would say is when you develop a little repertoire of options that really are easy default grabs and go, you can get them at any moment, even if you were late for work and you don't have time to put anything in a Ziploc bag yourself. The Optavia, these are the bars, which happen to me to sort of seem like the easiest on the go snack. But even the Optavia shakes, I'll take the little packet of the shakes and put 2 or 3 in my purse, or when I go to a conference, or if I'm going to be standing on a trade show floor for the day, I'll take the packets of the shakes with me, because if I have a water bottle, just a plain old water bottle that I've bought at Starbucks or any, vending machine, I can drink half the water bottle and then, dump the powder in and shake it up, and I can just have my shake inside my water bottle no matter where I'm at. And so I'll do that even every 3 hours if I'm in a setting where I just don't have any other options. So if I have taken bars or shakes with me, that makes it easy with the Optavia products. And a lot of their products are actually on the go kind of snacks. So you can take the mustard pretzels, or you can take the breakfast cereal and take those on the go for you if you're on Optavia. When we think about preparing, many people have sort of a mindset that in order to eat whole food that would conform to, let's say, the 15-gram secret, or even just a healthy eating protocol, that they would need to do a lot of very extensive preparation. And I find, honestly, that the issue about success, when we look at the long-term success for any of us in eating healthy, it's not the knowledge. This 4 weeks, I hope the knowledge has been helpful to help understand why, and to have a tool with this little formula that you can apply. But the knowledge itself is not enough. The number one predictor of success is actually community. And what I would say about that is, it's because, and actually I should say this a little differently, it's structure, and community helps provide structure. Let me put it that way. So structure means that you've got a plan and you have a backup plan. And community, the reason community is part of the structural plan is that what the people around us do tends to be the easiest way to stay on track or get off track. So when you're looking at structure and sort of your layers of support around yourself, community is number one. So enlisting the help of your spouse, and I love that some of you on this call have done some really awesome work as partners. Robert and I are grateful that we have each other supporting each other. And I know that some of you on this, in this month of September, have done the same thing, and it's been a good thing that you can kind of work together in the understanding of what your goals are. But I would also say that community, whether it's the people you go out to eat with, or the people you hang out with, or the people that you share recipes with, or even are able to say, here, this is what I'm up to with, are really important from the standpoint of helping you adhere to your structure. So if your structure, if I was going to say some pieces of structure that are really helpful, one is literally what you have in your cupboard and your refrigerator. So making sure that you keep those locations stocked with things that, for instance, were on that list that we sent out the first week, the shopping list of ideas that, you know, whether it's that you have meatless meatballs in the freezer, or you have a good quality hamburger in the fridge that you can make into dinner really quickly, or whether it's that you have a snack drawer of all snacks that are all okay. So there's not even temptations in that snack drawer that are not okay. You know, you've filled it with beef jerky and olives and a bar that meets the 15-gram secret and kale chips and, you know, little cheese crisps. So having some default ways that you've set up your snacks and your pantry and refrigerator at home to be really easy is one thing. That makes healthy eating on the go easier in our family, because literally it means if we're, you know, if we haven't had a lot of chance to plan ahead of time, then I know I can go to that drawer and literally fill up a bag of what I need to take with me. So the snacks are prepped and ready. Those are all pre-prepared things. If I have a chance to prepare ahead of time, the list that I sent that had the small snack ideas on it had a lot of ideas that are things that you can prep ahead of time. So for instance, Robert has been known to basically hard boil a bunch of eggs and prep those, you know, peel them and put them into a Ziploc baggie and take them with him on a plane, for instance. And that's an easy way to have something to eat. He's laughing because my girls tell him he's doing party fouls when he opens salmon or eggs on airplanes. But did he stay on his 15-gram secret protocol? Heck yeah, he did. So, you know, whatever. Maybe bring air freshener if it's really bad. Just kidding. I don't think that would be allowed. But literally, hard-boiled eggs are a really easy thing to prep ahead. My tendency is to make the tofu egg salad instead of eggs because I don't like eggs. And then I will often also do other prep. So in the past, you know, sandwiches were an easy thing to prep that's on the go. And nowadays what we do, for those of us that are meat eaters, like a turkey roll-up is an easy thing to have a little Ziploc bag with rolled up slices of turkey. And you can spread them with things that are flavorful. You could put a little pesto on them. You could put a little bit of cream cheese on them and sprinkle it with some herbs or some seasoning, or even sliced olives. Another easy snack that I take with me would be a little tub of peanut butter and, say, sliced apples. That would be another one that's easy. And so those ideas of things you can prep and put either into a Ziploc bag or a small container are great to plan for. Often we're faced with lots of fun options of going out to eat. And so I want to shift for a minute to talk about restaurants. And I'm curious, as we go through the restaurant part of our talk, if there's some things you guys have figured out, and sorry for that bad phrasing, if there are some things that you have figured out, I would love to hear some of your restaurant hacks, because I'll tell you some of the ones that I know. And if you have one, unmute yourself, and I'd love to have you add it in to the mix. The first restaurant hack is to not go places where you shouldn't. And what I mean by that is there are certain restaurants where either you know yourself so well that you know you're not going to be able to go into, I'm going to say Five Guys Burgers, let's say, or it doesn't matter what restaurant it is. All of us have our, oh, I see that there's some people resonating with that idea. I like your grin, Todd. But so let's say that you know at Five Guys Burgers, you will not be able to resist having a double-double with their awesome bun and a big side of French fries, which would totally throw your diet, you know, your pattern of eating. It's not that you're on a diet, it's the pattern of eating you're choosing, would throw it off kilter. So if that's the case, don't even go there for a period of time until either you know you're strong enough that you know you can order a protein style burger and have those wonderful bun, you know, the wonderful burgers without the bun, or that you can share the fries with 5 people. And so there's not going to be that much to go around, that you're going to be a little safer, for instance. So first off, just avoid places that are really where you know you have no control. One of my favorite stories is about Shauna, who has spoken on here before, who thinks that her car had an autopilot to Taco Bell. And, you know, there was never a time that she was within 2 miles of Taco Bell, but her car would make a veer and head over there, right? So she, for a long time, diverted her pattern of where she drove in this desert, and she did not drive on our Monterey Avenue that goes by Taco Bell, because if she was on Monterey, her car was going to Taco Bell. And she found a really great option at home to sort of fill that itch or that need in making the Optavia chili. And she would spice it up with cumin and stuff and make it taste like Taco Bell, you know, chili or beans. And she was able to sort of tide over until she was strong enough to not automatically turn in. That Taco Bell almost went out of business, we're sure, just because of Shauna's diversion, but they're still there. So first off, avoid places you can't manage is really a good thing. And maybe even enlist your family or friends in that help. That's one of the structural things you can do to help yourself. The other thing then is if you're, oh, I'm told to turn my volume up. Hold on. Just a minute. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I'm turning my volume up so that if you want to insert some thoughts, I can hear you. Another thing is when you're at a restaurant, realize that when you ask for your menu, there's always a hidden menu. And what I mean by that is my favorite experience with this was when I went to not Panda Express, P.F. Chang's. P.F. Chang's, which is, you know, lovely food, going to be pretty high in sodium, but there are options that you can stay within a 15-gram secret at P.F. Chang's. So what we realized was that they have a whole secondary menu that has all of the caloric breakdowns and the macronutrient breakdowns. So on your regular menu that they're going to hand everybody when they sit down, they're not going to show people the calories, but they're required to have a menu with the calories depicted. So if you ask for the menu with calories on it, you're going to get a menu that's going to tell you the serving size of that dish. So literally what might happen is you may get a portion that you normally order as your dish, you know, when you go to a restaurant, and it might really have been made to serve 6 people. Which tells you when you look at, if it says that the serving size is 6 servings, you have to realize that you need to multiply everything in that, you know, grams of protein, fat, and fiber by 6 so that you know how much the whole dish has in it. So it gives you a concept then of how many calories are in the dish. Like, you know, I'm not so worried about the total calories. What I'm mainly worried about is the total carbs. So if you can look at the label on that menu, because it'll have total carbs and it'll have total fiber, and do your little 15-gram calculation. So subtract your fiber from your carbohydrates and compare it to the protein. Couple things, for instance, at P.F. Chang's we found the chicken lettuce wraps and the tofu lettuce wraps were great. They're higher in sodium than might be what you are going to eat every day, but they are certainly, from a balance of protein and carbohydrates, those were great. Beef broccoli was great. What was not great was when you added in rice or noodles, right? So if you think about the same concept of the starches and carbs that are going to be high in some of those dishes, a noodle dish is going to just be overwhelmingly high in carbohydrates. And so one of the hacks that we have learned is to ask for what you want. So if you know that you really love what's in the chow mein, for instance, the vegetables, and maybe there's, you know, fried egg and fried chicken, and you like all of that, you can ask for just a stir fry without the noodles. Or if you're at CPK, you can ask for a gluten-free pizza, and they now actually have a cauliflower crust pizza. But the cauliflower crust pizza is closer to your 15-gram secret numbers than any of those pizzas they're going to have there. And you can ask for different things. You could ask for double the meat on that cauliflower crust pizza so that you got a higher proportion of protein as compared to your carbohydrate. If you are at a Subway, we've learned that the Subway salads, for instance, a Subway salad is a great lean and green meal for people on Optavia as long as you double the meat on that Subway salad. And so when you do that, you actually also keep within your 15-gram secret. So double the meat portion, say on a salad or on even a pizza. The other thing is pizza restaurants. In fact, I don't know if Shauna's here tonight because she had another meeting, but
Sherilyn.
yeah.
Yeah, and with Subway, any sandwich they make, they'll make into a salad.
Yeah,
Well.
cool. And do you remember going to the Slice Pizza place? What did Shauna do with all the pizzas there? Because they made those into salads too.
Yeah, I think it was the sandwiches they made a salad.
Awesome.
Oh, you drew
there
me.
you are. I just couldn't find you. Thank you.
Like,
Could you pipe up, Shauna, and tell us what you do?
Well, I always like, So the most important thing at on any menu is looking at what their sandwiches are, because they can serve those as salads. And what I like about that is that sometimes on a salad, you get a lot of stuff that you either have to tell them you don't want on the salad, or you're eating around, and sometimes that will actually fall up into your mouth, especially if it's like a candied pecan or something like that. So the reality is, if you look at the sandwiches, there's no extra things on that, and those are a much cleaner way to eat and have them make into a salad.
So in other words, you're not having to say remove the crouton, remove the tortilla strips, because those won't be in your sandwich. So once you get rid of the bread on the sandwich, everything inside the sandwich is generally going to be pretty good. And they can make the insides into the salad.
Absolutely. And in fact, you mentioned Slice. They have a portobello sandwich. And what's great about it is you can have the aioli. You can have the mushroom, they put peppers in it. I mean, there's a lot of great stuff. And then you add a chicken, or you add a shrimp or something like that to round out your protein. And it's just a great meal. I mean, you won't go away hungry or not satisfied. You'll actually feel like you got something super special at most restaurants when you do that with something from the salad. I mean, from the sandwich. Sorry.
The sandwich menu. No, perfect.
The other one.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Awesome. Thank you, Shauna. You were the first person who taught me that, so I love it. And Robert, you want to talk about how you've asked for what you want when you ordered at restaurants? Because a lot of times people think they have to stick with what's exactly described on the menu, and you've done a really good job at sort of describing what you want when you order. And usually, in many restaurants, they're very happy to oblige.
Yeah, I would say with restaurants that you're going to make mistakes, like with anything you do, right? So you have to get in there and try. Still, I think I say what I want, and then I get something else. Sometimes you're like, and you realize you forgot something. So I would say when we get in life, we have to kind of be willing to get messy and just try, right?
Yep.
But like jumping back, like even the Starbucks, I remember like there's like little hacks I've done, like with their egg salad and chicken salad sandwiches. They're pre-made, those little plastic things, the little cellophane over the top. The egg salad and the other salad, they're both inside lettuce, inside bread. Inside lettuce, inside bread. And you can flip the bread. I've done this many times when we're traveling. I get tired of the egg white bites sometimes. So I just flip the bread, and then I use the lettuce for the bread. And, and there's something we have that's called a fork that you could also use. So any sandwich, a lot of times the inside is compliant, right? So you can just flip the bread or flip one side of the bread and use your fork. And you don't have to eat the bread per se. So that's always something that you can do, that I found. And then like to Shauna's point, you have, when you ask for something, we were back in St. Louis for the Optavia convention, and I asked for like, a lettuce wrap sandwich, and the lady looked at me like, what? I mean, she was really like, never, like, what? Where are you from? I was like, are you from California? And so sometimes you'll get that, and you say, well, are you willing to try for me? And just ask, were you willing to try? Just take some lettuce and put it around with a bread. And we'll try. And unless they're willing to try, they'll go back and do it. They might laugh at you, make fun of you, giggle at you a little bit. But if you're willing to not take yourself too seriously and not take them too seriously and have a good attitude, people are often willing to do and try things for you.
That's true. Yeah. Well, and I had a what I thought was going to be a good hack that ended up being a mess up the other night. I was at a restaurant and I looked at the sides and I was like trying to figure out what to order, because the only option on the menu that was vegetarian was pasta, and I didn't want to order it. So I saw that on the sides there was grilled broccolini and grilled vegetables. So I ordered those. And then there was something that I thought was spaghetti squash with cheese sauce on it. So it was a mac and cheese, it was a squash mac and cheese is what they had advertised it as. And it turned out it was that they had put, I don't know, it seemed like in the end they probably only put 1 tablespoon of squash in the cheese and blended it. So it really was pasta with a little blended squash on top of the pasta, and it was not that great. And so I ate about 2 bites of it and then ended up just eating my vegetables as the rest of my meal. So it was a fail. Honestly, I thought they were being extra creative, but it turned out I was giving them too much credit. And I should have asked a little bit more, ahead of time. I want to mention too, Carolyn Duncan, Shauna just posted something from someone who sent her a message that said she looks at the menu online and then decides what she's going to order ahead of time and then doesn't even look at the menu when she gets to the restaurant and drinks club soda while everybody else decides what they want. That's awesome. Shauna also added, I had fried lettuce in Kentucky. Laugh out loud. Yeah, there are some states that don't have as many fresh vegetable options as we're fortunate to experience on the West Coast, for sure. Absolutely. I think one of the things, Carolyn, you bring up that I just want to mention is what you're drinking. Absolutely a really easy way to stay closer to your 15-gram secret goals is to not drink your calories and because most calories in drinks are sugar. And so when you're out to eat and you're looking at options that might feel special, or even if you're at home and wanting to make something that seems a little bit more like a special drink, if you can use club soda as sort of your base, or a LaCroix or a sparkly water or infused water as sort of your base, you can often do some things, whether it's a twist of lime, some mint, a tiny splash of cranberry juice, and that can make a drink seem a little bit more special and festive. At Christmas time, and even now that pomegranates are starting to come into play or into season, I put pomegranate seeds in drinks sometimes if I'm trying to have a fancy drink, just because it seems nice, a little bit like a sangria. So, when you look at the drinks, you're so wise to go for the soda, the club soda, not regular soda. The club soda is a good one to aim at, because it'll actually give you something to enjoy that feels different than what you might drink every day, instead of trying to drink a sugary drink. I think the other thing about alcohol, while we're talking about eating out and entertainment, is that most alcohol, even though it's not all super high in carbs, it's the stuff we add to the alcohol that's typically our problem. Things like vodka are not real high in carbs on their own, but we often mix those drinks. They're the mixers, right? So if you're going to have some alcohol and enjoy a drink, one of the great things to do is to do it without adding calories of sugar. So whether that's that you mix it with a little bit of seltzer water and then spruce it up with the pomegranate seeds and some mint, or a little bit of twist of lime and some lime zest, those are all good ways to go. I've been interested to read this last month a little bit more about alcohol because of the big study that came out that said 0 alcohol is the only safe amount of alcohol. And the bottom line is that the studies are all mixed up in the way that they've been doing the studies. And what they're finding is that people that don't drink or drink very little often have made that choice because of their health problems. And so it skews the data in the studies. And so it's not that we now think that maybe it's even that red wine isn't better than no wine, for instance, which is sad news for those of us that like it. But the point of why I'm saying all of that here with this is often when we go out to eat, we're faced with the question of if we're going to have something to drink. And so if you are going to drinking a clear liquor with a seltzer water is going to be a lower carb choice and a less impact on your blood sugar than even wine would be when you're eating out at this juncture. So a couple other thoughts then about preparation. One of the danger areas I just want to mention, because so many times it's thought to be a health food, and I just want to mention it, is smoothies. So it's very common to think, okay, I can just stop into Jamba Juice or get the smoothie at Starbucks, or what's the other? There's another Juice It Up, I guess is the other name of the place. And so the thing about those drinks, just to give you a frame of reference, is that they are usually extremely low in protein. Usually they have about between 2 and 6 grams of protein per even a 32-ounce drink, with the amount of carbohydrate in a 32-ounce drink being more than 65 grams. So even if you're getting a small drink in those locations, you would have to be really careful to do your calculation and make sure you had enough protein to balance out the carbs. And I have seen none of those drinks where I could get them under 15 grams at the smoothie locations. So if you have some places, I'll tell you, here in the desert, we have a restaurant called Fresh that does have a couple items on the menu that meet the criteria, as long as you only drink about half of your smoothie. So you would drink half, and then you better save the other half for another time, or you're going to be way over on the quantity of carbohydrates and protein that you need. And what you need to do in order to get that particular drink is to look at the ones that are the high protein drinks, or have them add at least 20 grams of grams of protein to your smoothie if you're going to do that. So for a lot of people, it's almost just better to say avoid that option, because it gets kind of complicated, and it's a really easy place to drink your calories and drink your carbs by using, some of the smoothie side of things. They kind of tend to be a danger zone for a lot of people. Does anybody else have any sort of restaurant ideas that they would like to talk about, or some restaurants that they've had either success or trouble navigating that they'd like to mention? And in case there's someone else in the group that has successfully handled that restaurant. Just curious. Here in the desert, there's a pizza restaurant that I like a lot. And they make a lot of other things other than pizza. They have Piero's Pizza Vino has a great kale salad. They have a very thin crust pizza, so people can really build up the protein on that pizza and maybe have one piece and still stay very right near that 15-gram carbohydrate intake. But the other thing I like about them is that they make lovely grilled chicken, and that doesn't work for me, but it works for my family. So Robert and Mari love grilled chicken, and they have an awesome grilled chicken there, which is a great protein option as well. So that's kind of been good as well. I'm just looking to see if anyone else has given us any other messages. So I want to think a little bit about some of the other style of restaurants that we often go to. If you're at a steakhouse, for instance, one of the things at steakhouses that's great is that there's usually good protein options if you're a meat eater. There's less good protein options if you're not a meat eater. So for me, it becomes a place where I have vegetable meals. But if you're a meat eater and you're going to get a steak, one of the things that you can do, let's say that you have a 6-ounce steak, or you're sharing a larger steak with someone else that's with you. The typical negative of the steakhouses is that the portions are huge on your sides, right? So they kind of pride themselves on great big baked potatoes and large portions of their sides. And so the thing that you want to do when you're looking at your meal, either at a steakhouse or at a lot of restaurants where the plating gives you a little clue on how to set up your proportions, is if you think of your plate, and we talked early on about the 9-inch plate being a good portion size to imagine all of your food fitting within 9 inches in the center of your plate. That keeps your portions in control. On your portion sizes at a steakhouse, if you have your protein, you have your steak or whichever protein you've chosen, and you think of the other 3/4 of your plate being the location for all the rest of your veggies, right? So if you're going to have some baked potato, make it a tiny slice, right? Make it something less than 1/4 of the potato, and then fill the rest of your plate with your veggies. So, if you're spooning some of the sides onto your plate and you're having some creamed spinach and some broccolini or broccoli or cauliflower, you want to fill the rest of your plate with either salad or veggies, and have your steak essentially be 1/4 of your meal and the rest of your meal predominantly veggies. If you're going to have a little bit of the starch, like the potatoes, you just want that to be the smallest size you can do so that you stay within that 15-gram amount. It's hard for me to tell you how much of the potato that would be, because the potatoes vary so much in size, but a 15-gram potato is going to be somewhat, it's a little bigger than a golf ball, let me put it that way. So like a lime size is probably about the size of the baked potato that you would be cool with as far as putting in 15 grams of the potato. So with a steakhouse, it seems like it's a little bit easier because it conforms to sort of the construct of protein and vegetables being really readily available. It gets a little bit more tricky, and you have to be a little bit more creative if you're somewhere that has shish kebabs, or you know, it's a Chinese restaurant where you've got a mixture of things in the dish. So the whole kind of general rule of thumb I'm wanting to leave you with is that if you think of your plate having about a quarter of your plate equivalent to protein and 3/4 of your plate equivalent to vegetables, you'll be pretty close to on track. The other way that you can think about that with the 15 gram is to apply the 15-gram secret. So if you have a label, or if you know because you've looked up ahead of time on that menu that you've applied that 15-gram secret, then you know that you're in the safe zone as well. One other comment in the chat box. Thank you, Janya, for this. So Janya was talking about if you're drinking wine, then a 5 ounce, or sorry, that a normal pour of Pinot Noir or Cabernet Sauvignon is a little less than 4 grams of carbohydrate. And that's great. And the other thing about alcohol, I guess I didn't say that usually is my thing that I say every time, is always have it with food. So if you're having cocktail hour, find or serve cheese, olives, nuts, or slices of meat with it, because that'll help balance out the blood sugar effect of the cocktails that you're having that are separate from your meal. Any of you who are in fat burning, I'm giving you this advice for when you're not in fat burning, because you can't do this and stay in fat burning. I will tell you your fastest way from point A to point B in trying to lose weight and decrease inflammation is going to be to skip the wine. But many of us in this group are here for a very long run kind of perspective, or are in maintenance. And so when you look at maintenance, it's appropriate to think about, okay, how would I balance that cocktail or that glass of wine with something that wouldn't spike my blood sugar? Part of why I say that is that one of the persons on the call just a little bit ago, I want you to know, and so you can kind of give a thumbs up, because this is a really awesome report. One of the private reports that came in on my chat right now is that a gentleman who's on program right now, who has type 2 diabetes, needs to lose about 10 pounds, and they had just been put on insulin because of their type 2 diabetes. And this month so far, they've lost 5 pounds, and now the blood sugar readings are below the target that the doctor had given him. And so that is awesome. These adjustments that this person has made using the Optavia program have gotten the insulin dose down, and are starting to change blood sugar, which is exactly what we want. And so this course, these 4 weeks, have been about, what do you do? Maybe you used Optavia to get to your goal weight, or you're in process, or you're in a weight loss phase yourself using the 15-gram secret and really dialing it down. But the other part of this is, how are you prepared and sort of made bulletproof for the long run, right? So part of that is that we've had the structure of meeting together once a week. I want to just open up the last few minutes of our call, both for comments, and then also so that I can talk a little bit about some things coming in the future. I am curious. I'm kind of looking. Oh, thank you, Greg. You gave us some more ideas. Luna Grill makes shish kebabs on their salads and then just skip the rice. Perfect. And Dick, thank you. Francisco's Bistro over here on Dinah Shore in our desert has a great chicken Caesar. Thank you for those ideas. Those are good. From the standpoint of an ongoing support system, and what I'm thinking about is, what's the structure we look at in the future? We've kind of toyed with the idea of wondering if it's a continued good idea to have a group of us meet on Tuesday evenings for continued support and structure. And I'm curious if anybody has any thoughts or ideas, and then I'll answer any questions that come in as well. So if you have some ideas on, has this been supportive, and is it nice that it's been 4 weeks and now you take a break, or would you want to have something that you could continue to tap into for support? I'm curious. I'll mention the recipe email because I just got a question about that. So it has not come out yet. And I'll tell you what happened. I've got it partially ready to go, and there's a bit more tweaking on being sure that I've got all the macronutrients listed for each recipe, so that you can look at it and be able to adjust it and see your portion sizes with the 15-gram secret. So please stay tuned for that recipe guide. It will, or the recipe list, it'll come out here within the next probably 2 days. and so that you'll have that as well as the shopping list that we sent out earlier on as well. I'm getting some comments. People like the virtual support, and maybe some people would be intermittent just because of travel, but so certainly coming up in the season when they're back home from traveling, maybe a little bit easier. Sounds good. Just a couple comments then. All of you know that ExoHealth is sort of, that's our hub right now. We have a website in process that honestly the rate limiting factor has been my writing, so it's coming. And the website will be a place that you can check back to eventually for what classes are coming up or what things to notice. What I would say though is right now our Facebook page is a good place to check. We will always post events or upcoming seminars on Facebook. I have 2 in the works right now I want to tell you about. One is on gut health and the other is on dealing with viral illness. And many people don't know they're dealing with a viral illness, but they're noticing that they're extremely tired or they're having aches and pains that don't make sense. And a lot of times that's related to their body fighting off virus that's a chronic virus. So those 2 are coming up as 4-week sessions. So stay tuned for those. What I'm wondering is that I would like to be able to offer some continuation for those of us that are continuing to try to eat healthy diets, healthy food. And so if we look at, and we'll post this, there's a couple things coming up. If you're in the desert, October 4th is our next event that's actually about Optavia and also about just celebrating people. And it's kind of a night, sometimes we call it Nights of Health and Hope. So the concept being that we're getting together to celebrate the successes and to share what's working and to help people know how they can get on program if that's what they're interested in. So that's October 4th, right next to my office in the cafe. There'll be an Optavia evening to learn more about that and to share the successes of our clients that are here in the desert. So that's one event that's coming up. Almost a month later after that, on November 5th, is an evening about healing from chronic illness. So things that might be more around the viral illness side. So that evening is going to be focused on symptoms that people are having and how they can start to learn to boost their immune system to help. I am looking at a couple other things here in the chats that have come in, people saying support is good. What I'm thinking we ought to do, and I would like to shorten it if this is what we're going to do in October, is have from 6 to 6:30 on Tuesday nights, just have a half-hour support session where what I'll do is I may actually even ask a few of you that are going to be on those calls to support us with some things that are helpful. There's a whole beautiful list of habits of health that Dr. Anderson, who set up Optavia, has set into a curriculum. And Shauna Perry and Dick Perry, who are on this call, and many of you that I don't know that are health coaches, teach those. So if we go through habits of health that are other supportive parts of our dietary program, like the 15-gram secret and low glycemic eating, just for a half hour on Tuesday nights in October, I think that's probably our best bet. So stay tuned for me to put something out so that you know how to tune into that. Because we'll put that out this next week so that you're ready for October. Robert, am I missing anything? You were saying, help me let people know what's coming.
November 4 is a Sunday, Shauna pointed out, so maybe you're going to have that on a Thursday, the 1st of the 8th.
It's November 5 is the one I mentioned. Sorry, I meant
on a Monday?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So the one about viral illness, and honestly, when I say viral illness, a lot of people don't know they have a viral illness, so I have to figure out a way to phrase it that's more about exhaustion and some of the symptoms that people have when they're fighting a virus and don't even know it. But that's on November 5th. One of the things that I have found is that there's a significant psychologic component where a lot of people that are fighting viral illness are also starting to have problems with eating. And a lot of that is around, there's almost like a brain effect that's going on that they're starting to have some difficulty. So we're going to have a psychologist with us that has some really good tactics on benefiting how to eat better, even when you're fighting illness and trying to build your immune system. And I'll be doing part of that one too. So I'm looking at, thank you, I see. Yeah, feeling blah, that's actually what we should call it. Thank you, Carolyn. If you're feeling blah, October 5 is the night for you. How's that? The blah night. I think that sounds good. Yes. Ellen, your question on can you watch the virus one later? It'll be a live evening, so I'll see if there's a way I can tape it. If not, what I'll do is do another Zoom about it at another time. Robert and I are setting up both our Wednesday Facebook Lives that I do on Wednesdays, and that's one of the topics I'll cover there, and then I can figure out a way to have that information available to people who can't be there, I would say. I just want to say thank you. I don't want to say bye to you all because it's been fun to get to see your faces each week. What I'll plan on, and I'm going to say this just so that those of you that are finding this virtual support method helpful can count on that for next week, is that if we look at next Tuesday night from 6 to 6:30, I'm just going to shorten it for a half hour so that it makes it a little easier for people to commit to being here. And happy to have everybody on here who wants to be, and know that you can invite other people to join us if you're needing a support system around eating healthy. That's really our goal. Exactly. So October, someone's just asked me to clarify the dates. October 4 is our Optavia event, and that's a Thursday night. Shauna, you can double check me on the date, but I'm pretty sure that's right. So October 4 is the Optavia event, and then November 5 is the Feeling Blah event, if that makes sense. And those are live in-person events. And then Tuesday nights from 6 to 6:30, we'll be here in a support system, and I'll figure out how we want to do that as far as topics coming up. Okay, that's where we're at. Keep checking into Exo Health. What it will do is post events there. And each of you that has a health coach that may have shared this Zoom with you, please connect with your health coach. They so want you to succeed, and will actually be very, very supportive of helping you stay on track. Shauna just added to everybody, November 1 is another live event. That's right. So if you look at the Thursday nights coming up, the first Thursday nights of each month are when we're holding a Health and Hope Optavia type event near my office. And then the other dates are the ones I just gave you. Okay, I am so happy for each of you. Please send us posts and let us know what worked for you with this, what you'd like to see changed or more of or less of. We're happy to learn with you. Or if you have some great hack, post it on Exo Health. Everybody looking there would love to learn from you. So thank you for sharing your knowledge along the way, and congratulations to each one of you. I appreciate you. Have a happy, happy end of the month, and we'll see you another time. Bye-bye.